welcome back to the Bucket Think Tank for the Life of Scrooge, Part 10, The Invader of Fort Duckburg. So, when we last left off, Scrooge had taken Hortense and Matilda from Glasgow, Scotland, or actually just Scotland, and was heading to Duckburg, more appropriately, the state of Calisota, which pretty much just occupies a section of California if you go by the map here. We don't get to see a lot of it. But what makes Part 10 interesting is it's sort of a lore dump. There's a lot of stuff that sort of is established here that will play into the future of the Duck universe as a whole. And there's also just a lot of fun little shout outs to not just some really good stories, but also some key moments and key characters that will sort of define exactly what people think of when they think of Duckburg. So our story begins with, Scrooge and company, his sisters, on their way to, Fort Duckburg. They get a bit lost, and Scrooge asks the farmer, hey, where is it? Where's Fort Duckburg? He points to it. It's on Kill Mule Hill. So he goes up there. Hortense finds the papers, the owner's manual for this buggy, and there's a list of options that Scrooge rejected for this Rolls Regal. And Scrooge doesn't quite know exactly what all he rejected because he couldn't see the fine print. One of the things he rejected was brakes, and Scrooge tries to play it off by going, good, when Scrooge McDuck is on the move, he never stops. And he's moving downhill, he crashes into a cornfield, and that's when Hortense says, from now on, you're wearing your glasses full time. And that's the beginning of Scrooge always having his glasses on. We were wondering when that was going to happen. I honestly did. So he meets the family, one of which is Humperdinck, the farmer who told them where Fort Duckburg was. We meet his wife, Elvira, who people call them Ma and Pa Duck, and we meet two of their children, Daphne and Ader. Daphne seems to be blessed with good luck because, not only did that motor car barely just miss her, it turns out that when she's picking up the broken eggs, which is kind of weird whenever I see ducks collecting eggs, but there's a diamond in it, so it's sort of crazy. So they get a bit of an explanation exactly what's going on with sort of Fort Duckburg. It is currently it used to be home of the Woodchuck Militia. And now that Scrooge is using it for his base of operations, that means the local boys club will be without a clubhouse. The club known as the Junior Woodchucks, which, if you're a fan of Ducktales, I want to say the original cartoon you might be more excited for than you are for the 2017 version. But the Junior Woodchucks has sort of been a mainstay story in a lot of other Duck universes. Well, mostly just the comics and stories of the Donald Duck comics, Uncle Scrooge Adventures. Whenever the nephew's there, at some point, we will mention the Junior Woodchucks. And again, in the 89 cartoon, the Junior Woodchuck guidebook is a reservoir of impossible knowledge. As in, it couldn't possibly know what it says, but it does. So then in the middle of it, we meet the third son, Quackmore, and he, as according to Elvira, he throws a tantrum. He's an expert. He's a master throwing a tantrum. He's got a short temper, and Scrooge's like, it's okay. My little sister Hortense, she's got this. No one throws a tantrum like her, and he throws a tantrum. She throws a tantrum, and then they keep going, and then they fall in love, and Scrooge's like, oh, spare me. Let's go. They break it up, and Elvira says, someday I'll be called Grandma Duck. And this is who she is. This is Grandma Duck. So for those of you that only watch the cartoon, don't know, you might not know Grandma Duck. And to be fair, when I first met her, in a lot of the other, not more recent works, when I started reading the Duck comic books, I thought she was Scrooge's secretary, just going from her design. But she actually is the grandmother and great-grandmother to a lot of key characters here. But anyway, on the now Kill Motor Hill, because that's what happened when the name was changed for the automobile age, we come to Fort Duckburg and we meet the Junior Woodchucks, or as Scrooge calls them, the Midget Gophers, and there's only 3 members there. And to sort of make this a short story, Scrooge kicks them out. They take the Junior Woodchuck guidebook, but even now the Junior Woodchucks are not stupid. They're suspicious. Like, well, you know what? How do we know he really owns Fort Duckburg? He could be a crook or an enemy agent, so they have to call the authorities. And it was always weird to me, looking back on it, that they just sort of called the White House. And the president just like, what? What do you mean some billionaire from Scotland has seized the military installation on the coast? Because that's how it reads. That's how they said it. They didn't say, hey, we got kicked out of our clubhouse. No, they say some rich guy from Scotland has seized the military installation on the coast. Like, that's an invasion. Like, it's pretty much an invasion. So the president's not having it. He's like, the three dangers that I campaigned against big business, foreign interference, and military threats to our shores, all rolled into one? Egad! Like, you know what? I'm handling this personally. Reactivate my first volunteer cavalry unit. Yes, by gad, the Rough Riders will ride again. So then we cut to Scrooge. And he's trying to find, he's a bit lost because he's on the river trying to bring his, barrels of money to Fort Duckburg because, he's too cheap to pay for proper transport. And he comes across this homestead on section 26. And he goes, and he doesn't know it's the Beagle Boys. He acts like, hey, I'm looking for Fort Duckburg. They give him directions, or rather they stumble through it, and they realize it's Scrooge. Okay, well, you know what? We're going to get even with him because, because of him, we're in jail. We got these numbers, and we're never going to change these numbers and that. So, fun fact, Section 26, where the homestead is, this plays a role into a future story, Uncle Scrooge Adventures, The Money Well. And it's actually one of my favorite stories, which also plays into Scrooge's glasses. But it's a really, really fun story. Long story short, Scrooge needs new glasses, doesn't want to get new glasses. Then his refusal to get new glasses cost him more than it would have cost him to get a new pair of glasses. So anyway, when they finally arrive at Fort Duckburg, Scrooge takes a money bath, and then they are met by, the Beagle Boys, but Hortense and Matilda mistake them for the Long Ranger. And they're like, hey, you know what? That's whatever. They don't care. They find Scrooge like, you know what? He's in a barrel of money. Turns he's a millionaire. Matilda corrects him, billionaire actually. And they sort of like hammer him into the barrel, and they put the girls up on a hanger, and everything seems to be looking good for the Beagle Boys. But then a cannon goes through, blasts. It sort of shoots Scrooge out of the barrel by destroying it. He's like, what's going on? There's someone speaking on a blowhorn. Attention the fort, surrender or die. Scrooge's like, what's going on? It's the Navy, the Marines, the Dwarf Voles, Junior Woodchuck Scrooge, and the big shot with the megaphone is the President of the United States. And time's up. And the Beagle was like, well, Scrooge made some really powerful enemies. And Blackheart Beagle was like, with his personality, I'm not surprised. And you'd think this would be where we all sort of let cooler heads prevail. But Scrooge isn't having it. No microbe moles or Beagle Boys, even the president can push me around. Get off my land now. Blackheart corrects him again. Junior Woodchucks. I love the correction. It reminds me a bit of The Great Mouse Detective, how Basil could never get Olivia Faversham's name right. So in response, they fire another cannon. And the Beagle Boys are freaking out. They're starting to cry. Scrooge's like, "Oh, you big sissies. I finally have an adversary to almost match me." He's so happy about this. And so begins the historic charge up Kilmotor Hill. And the Beagle was like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And turns out he also locked the door so they can't get out. You've got no weapons. What are you going to do? And Scrooge's like, look, I've got one weapon, the fort itself. So he starts knocking bits of the fort off to pretty much just attack them like boulders. And we see the president go attention, man, watch out for the north turret. And he goes why? A sniper? No, I mean the actual north turret. It's coming down on us. And the president's like, bully, I've attacked many a fort, but this is the first time a fort ever attacked me. Invigorating. It's hilariously insane. And then the battle goes forward, and it's this huge epic clash. There's another blast of the door. And this frees Hortense. And Hortense goes after the Rough Riders with her broom. And the Rough Riders like, we gotta run. We can't shoot an unarmed lady. And they keep going. It's hilarious that Hortense, once again, her temper has granted her a superpower. She's got this weird temper. And she's found a guy who also has a really, really bad temper. And they fall in love. I wonder what's the connection? I don't know. But anyway, Scrooge and the president are not having it. They don't care. They don't care. Scrooge goes, "Come at me, you monkeys. It'll be a dark day when I give in to a mere superpower." And the president goes, "Undaunted, I shall press on single-handedly. No foreign tycoon warmonger will invade Fort Duckburg." And once again, the writing is brilliant as it sums up the tension here. And so the two greatest men of their day meet in a head-to-head fight to the finish. Who will blink first? The guy who made it square or the guy who dealt it square? And fortunately, they both blink at the same time, so it's all right. And like, wait a minute, you're that guy. Like, you're Buck McDuck from Montana, and you're that rancher I met years ago in the Dakota Badlands. And they realize, hey, I thought you were some cowardly interloper. It's crazy. And like, I never guessed you ended up the president. You've almost done as well as I have. And then, we see Hortense and Quackmore. They meet up. They come back in. Apparently, while down after chasing the Rough Riders, Hortense found Quackmore, and they just sort of walked up holding hands. And then they argue again. And then they fall for each other again. And the president asks, well, let's just stop with the pretense. It's Teddy Roosevelt. We said it before, and now we'll say it again. He asks, like, why didn't you answer my first hail? And Scrooge's like, I was going to, but I had some momentary trouble with those crooks. And Teddy says, like, you know what? You boys go find an unwhacked Rough Rider and tell him I put you under arrest. And even the Beagle Boys like, whoa. Arrested by the president? Love it. Yes, sir. You bet. And Blackheart is like, you know what? This is great because when we get out of jail, we'll know where Scrooge will be with all of his money. And one of Blackheart's sons points out, but are the four of us really a match for him? And Blackheart says, you boys need to start raising families. We need more Beagle Boys. So this also sets the future for the Duck universe, why there are so many Beagle Boys. They've all it's kind of weird if you think about it. They've all like, you know what? We need more numbers. We need more Beagles. Sons, go breed for me. So why? So we can take Scrooge McDuck's money. And that night, there is a presidential campfire between Teddy Roosevelt and Scrooge McDuck, and they sort of tell stories about the Battle of Santiago, how the Transvaal was so hot one time, the gold oozed like taffy, and apparently Scrooge slaughtered some people, dragging his canoe behind him. And this is much to the sort of chagrin of Hortense and Matilda, who Matilda mentions that, she expected a more dignified and classy dinner with the president, but no. But what's really interesting, what really is great, is sort of the end of this night, when Teddy Roosevelt and Scrooge sort of point out that, they owe each other a lot for their current success. Scrooge coaxed Teddy Roosevelt to get back into politics, and Teddy Roosevelt taught him the glory of hard work and to always be a square dealer. It's sort of interesting that big business, the future of big business, inspires the future of big government. It's just sort of like, it all makes sense. And Scrooge points out, like, the seeds were the first billion, and I'm going to plant those seeds here in Duckburg, and it will grow and spread and bear fruit. And he's also going to bring more jobs and industries to Duckburg. It's going to become a mighty city instead of this one-horse town. And then, of course, Scrooge meets the Junior Woodchucks. He calls them right this time, and he donates to their clubhouse, which is a doorknob. And then we come across these two homesteaders. Like, we hear some tycoon move to town, and there's going to be lots and lots of new jobs. And it's like, you know what? This will be where we hold our homestead. And she points out, like, I don't want anyone near this monstrosity. To which Scrooge goes, well, you better get used to that monstrosity, ma'am. It's here to stay. And we get a shot of the money bin. And it looks beautiful. I think it might, when I first saw this money bin as a kid, from the Ducktales comic, I felt a bit disappointed, because I like the Ducktales money bin a bit more. It's a bit more over the top, but I love the hill. I love Kill Motor Hill the most here. And I like the money bin. It works. It's minimalist. It's not over the top. The Ducktales money bin can be a bit over the top, especially from the 89 cartoon. The 2017 one just looks a bit boring. But this one here, it makes sense. It has a minimalist approach. It is what it's supposed to be, which is, hey, this is the base of my world empire. It's supposed to look like an actual business. It looks more like a business than the 87 one. So the comic ends with us seeing Hortense and Quackmore argue about, baby names, as the comic ends. So part 10 it's fun. It really is. It's this huge epic clash of two great figures in history, one of which being a duck, fighting the President of the United States. And this is sort of that story that I really think has to be told. Maybe a bit more than the other ones just because of how fun it is. I mean, again, it's the president versus a rich guy. It works on a multitude of levels. Like, you don't really appreciate... I didn't appreciate exactly the symbolism of Scrooge McDuck versus Teddy Roosevelt until I got like, because, yeah, Roosevelt, he went after big business hard. Yeah, he did. Just ask General Electric. And even Standard Oil. But even more so was just the lore we got here. Again, this is Duckburg in its earliest days. This is the arrival of the Duck family, meeting the McDucks. And from that, we're going to see sort of the Duck family we know now. Huey, Dewey, Louie, Donald, Della, whoever Della married or shacked up with. You know, Gyro Gearloose will be a part of it, not necessarily part of the family, but then we have people like Gladstone, Gander, and Launchpad, all in this one place. And it's all because Scrooge McDuck arrives in Duckburg. And that's sort of what makes it fun. This is the most lore dump issue I think there is, and I love lore dumping. I really do. I love when there's especially when it's handled well. Don't just say it. Make it subtle. Make it appear part of a natural aspect of the story. Anyway, with that in mind, we'll bring this video to a close here. If you're new to the Bucket Think Tank, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. Check out some other videos on the channel. It really helps. What's your favorite part about, well, maybe not the Duck family, or just the issue, like one or the other. Who's your favorite character in Duckburg? Is it Scrooge McDuck, Gyro Gearloose, Launchpad McQuack? Either version, the comics, the original cartoon, the 2017 reboot. Which one? Which one? And I will catch you all later. This is the Bucket Think Tank signing off. May your fandom serve you well.